All right, let's just start by saying forget everything you think you know about pre-Columbian North America. Today, we're going to peel back the layers on this incredible tapestry of societies, and believe me, the story it tells is absolutely remarkable.
So let me ask you something. When you hear the phrase Native American, what's the very first image that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably something like a warrior on horseback out on the Great Plains. But here's the thing. The reality on the ground before 1492, whoa, it was so much more complex than that.
Yeah, it wasn't just one single picture at all. It was more like this incredibly rich, vibrant tapestry, woven together from hundreds of totally distinct peoples, and every single one had its own unique way of life. So, okay, how do we even begin to make sense of all that diversity? Well, the key, the real secret, lies in this one really powerful idea. Your culture is shaped by your environment. We're going to see exactly how each of these societies became masters of adaptation, whether they lived in a scorching desert or a lush river valley. And this is the basic framework, right? It's the pattern we're going to see over and over again in this explainer. You have these diverse environments, which lead to really unique adaptations, which then, boom, create these completely distinct societies. It's that simple and that profound. All right, let's dive into our first big example. It all centers on an agricultural revolution, a revolution sparked by one single remarkable crop, maize. You and I know it as corn. I mean, you can't overstate this. Maize cultivation was a total game changer. It started down in Mesoamerica, and it became the foundation, the bedrock, that allowed for these massive, complex civilizations like the Aztecs to even exist. Think about it. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, was one of the biggest cities on the entire planet back then, an enormous city built right on a lake, all powered by corn. And that farming tech, it didn't stay put. It spread north, and the results were just incredible. You had peoples like the Hokamam who built these unbelievably sophisticated irrigation canals. I mean, they literally made the Arizona desert bloom with crops. And at the same time, you've got the ancestral plebeians engineering these jaw-dropping cliff dwellings. You don't build something like that without a highly organized, deeply complex community. But, okay, what happens in places where that kind of farming just isn't an option? I'm talking about the super dry Great Basin or the massive Great Plains. The environment there demanded a totally different playbook, but one that was just as smart, just as sophisticated. Yeah, in these places, you needed a different kind of genius. Survival wasn't about planting, it was about constant movement and having this incredibly deep knowledge of the land. It's a classic case of scarcity forcing innovation, right? Just try to imagine what that means day to day. For groups like the Apache or the Shoshone, being mobile was the core innovation. Your survival depended on having this almost encyclopedic knowledge of the land. Where's the next water source? Which plants can we eat? When do the buffalo migrate? It's no surprise this led to small, super adaptable, family-based bands. It was a social structure that was perfectly, and I mean perfectly, designed for a life on the move. Okay, so we've got two extremes, right? The dedicated farmers and the super mobile hunters. But what about the places in between? The more forgiving environments like the Mississippi River Valley or the Atlantic coast. Well, here, societies could mix and match, blending different strategies into this really successful middle ground. And you can see the results of that blend right here, because they had a mix of farming, hunting, and gathering that could support these big, permanent villages with really complex social structures. Take the Hopewell people. They built these gigantic ceremonial mounds and had trade networks that stretched for thousands of miles. Or look further north at the Iroquois. They perfected what's called Three Sisters agriculture, growing corn, beans, and squash all together in this perfect symbiotic relationship. And they used that stability to build a powerful political confederacy that lasted for centuries. And one of the most fascinating social innovations, at least to me, was the family structure itself. In a lot of these societies, including that Iroquois confederacy we just mentioned, everything was organized around matrilineal clans. Now, what does that mean? It means your lineage, your identity, your inheritance, it all passed down through your mother's side. And that kind of structure, as you can imagine, often gave women a ton of social and political influence. Okay, for our last major group, let's head to the coasts. This is a whole other unique path, because here, the ocean was so incredibly abundant, so full of resources, that you could have complex, settled communities, often without needing to farm at all. Think about that. I mean, all the way from Southern California up to the islands of Alaska, you see these incredible maritime technologies pop up.
The Chumash, for instance, built these amazing plank canoes, tommels, that were sophisticated enough to travel way out into the open ocean. Up on the Columbia River, the Chinook controlled the massive salmon runs, and that resource was so rich it created a complex, stratified society with nobles and commoners. And way, way up north, the Aleuts just mastered the kayak, allowing them to hunt sea mammals and thrive in the super harsh Arctic. And all of that abundance supported these really rich cultural practices, like the famous potlatch ceremonies you'd see with peoples like the Tlingit. Now, to our eyes, it might look a little strange, giving away or even destroying property. But it was an incredibly sophisticated economic and social tool. The whole point wasn't to hoard your wealth. It was to show your status by giving it away, by redistributing it throughout the community to reinforce the entire social order. So, we've seen everything from desert canals to ocean-going canoes. What's the big takeaway here? What's the one thing you should remember? It's that the simple, single image of the Native American we started with, it just completely dissolves, doesn't it? What replaces it is this picture of dozens and dozens of distinct, sophisticated societies. Each and every one of them is a testament to incredible human ingenuity and a really deep understanding of their environment. And that's the common thread, the thing that ties them all together. Every single one of these unique ways of life was built on a deep, almost masterful understanding of the specific place they called home. And that really leaves us with a final question to think about, doesn't it? What can we, today, learn from their centuries of experience? What lessons are there about human adaptability, about innovation, and about what it really means to live in relationship with the land? Because this history, it's not just about the past. It might just hold some powerful lessons for our present and our future.